sweet tea right now.
Live from Falcon Park in Auburn, New York, it's once again time for Elmira Pioneers baseball as after a 2-day layoff in one of the most successful weeks to date in the Pioneers season, the Pios pick up here in Auburn tonight, taking on the Auburn Doubledays. Good evening, everybody. For Pioneers Pregame Live, I'm Farrell Hudson. We'll have all your coverage here as the Pios get set to take on the Auburn Doubledays. Again, last week, a crazy week, a very hectic 9-game stretch in 5 days. It began with the Geneva Red Wings last Tuesday on June 17th, an extension from the originally scheduled June 8th game in which the Pioneers ended up winning 11-3, and then we got into Game 2 of that doubleheader, a game in which the Pios trailed 5-1. Brandon Duback walked it off. Last Wednesday, the Pios took on these very same Auburn Doubledays, dropping it at Dunn Field by a final score of 15-11. You move to Thursday and you have a close, nail-biting 3-2 victory over the Geneva Red Wings, in which the Pioneers were held very nicely by Geneva pitching in total. Same thing occurred last Tuesday night as well. You had Jake Short go 6 innings of 1-run ball, and then the Pios strung together very nicely versus Malachi Morgan and Michael Ucci in the bottom of the 7th inning. Pioneers didn't lack any shortage of offense on Wednesday evening, put up 11 against Auburn, 7 against their starter Hunter Lefkis without even recording an out. Pioneers will see Hunter Lefkis. We'll get to him a little bit later on in the broadcast as well. You turn it over to Friday, an 11 a.m. game, a bit of a quick start time after a 6:30 home game on Thursday night. The Pios took on the Newark Pilots at Colburn Park in Newark on Friday morning, and they ran away with a 13-9 victory, but I use ran away very liberally because the Pioneers were down 1-0 in the ballgame. Owen Hoyt gave them great length across 3 2/3. I say great length as well in the sense of that the Pioneers were looking to string a lot of guys out of their bullpen, and Owen Hoyt just getting started with the Pioneers. If you remember, that was Hoyt's second start of the season against Newark last Friday. He started 6 innings strong of 1-run baseball while striking out 6 in the game against the Batavia Muck Dogs on Friday, June 13th. You want to talk about great pitching, the Pioneers got that. We mentioned Brendan Hayes last week. Phenomenal against Geneva on the Thursday night. He held the Red Wings to 2 runs, no earned across 6 1/3, or rather 7 innings of work. Check that. 8 strikeouts, no walks. So the Pioneers pitching definitely has started to come into form, which is nice to see. Back to the game on Friday, though, Owen Hoyt was pulled. Pioneers were down 1-0. They take a 5-1 lead in the 6th. Then 5-2 it becomes in the 7th. Pios string together 7 runs in the top of the 8th inning, but then a 7-run bottom of the 8th from the Auburn Doubledays, in which you saw multiple different Pioneers relievers come into the game. You had Chase Medras come in. You had Jackson Grant, a couple guys that, let's say, struggled in that outing, but nonetheless, Pioneers were able to walk away with a victory against a tough Newark team. At that point, Newark was in first place in the PGCBL West. They started off incredibly strong in their opening 9 ball games of the season, a 7-1-1 record under the tutelage of Marcus Smith. Granted, you could say, hey, they played the Geneva Red Wings, who are obviously struggling in the PGCBL West right now. They played the Niagara Ironbacks, but you don't want to factor that in too much either, because if you look at the Pioneers' record entering tonight's ball game, 7-6 when they did not play the Geneva Red Wings. You have to count every game as equal. Pioneers did that. They have a doubleheader, or had a doubleheader, shall I say, in the past tense on Saturday, a game in which they led 3-1 against Newark going to the top of the 5th inning. Pioneers ended up emerging victorious in that game, and then Game 2, a very comfortable 9-3 win, which left them with the Jamestown Tarpskunks on Sunday. They got started off with a really fantastic start on the mound from Garrett Rochon. Rochon going 6 innings in that ball game, 1-run baseball. Andrew Jones comes in relief, closes out the game for Elmira. That was the 5th of consecutive victories in a row, and then finally the stretch came to an end on Sunday night. Nick Ianiello, the right-handed product out of the University of Brockport, was phenomenal for the Tarpskunks against the Pioneers. Elmira rallied. They had 2 runners on, and the tying run coming to the plate, and Dylan Fatovich, who rounded out the order in the top of the 7th inning on Sunday night, but unfortunately for the Pioneers' sake, they were unable to salvage victory. So that leaves us where we we are today after 2 off days. Pioneers, a bit of a wacky schedule early on. If you remember, they played 3 ball games in the opening 8 or 9 days or so, excluding suspensions or rainouts, then had a victory, started off 2-4, and since then have been on a unbelievably torrid pace. The Pioneers now sitting in 11-6 with an opportunity to overtake first place tonight in the PGCBL Western Division. They're going up against a very tough Auburn Doubledays team in which they are 1-2 against Auburn, 8-2 in their last 10 ball games. And like we said, they stymied the Pioneers here back on June 7th in the first matchup of the season between both squads, 10-5. Right now, the West Division standings in the PGCBL, it's the Auburn Doubledays in first place at 11-5-1. Your Elmira Pioneers in second, trailing by half a game at 11-6. The Niagara Falls Americans 11-6-1. The Batavia Muck Dogs 12-7. Both have been battling it out. Batavia winners of 2 in a row. Jamestown, a seesaw record so far. Keep going up, keep going down, but Frank Jagoda's squad staying nicely in the mix. They're in 5th place, 9-9 record. Newark has dropped all the way to 7-7-1, 3-7 in their last 10 ball games, including dropping 6 consecutive. The Geneva Red Wings now have tied a ball game. They won 2 in a row before that, 3-13-1 in the Niagara Ironbacks, the newly acquainted team in the PGCBL Western Division out of Niagara, Ontario. They have lost 6 in a row, 9 in their last 10, and they sit in dead last in the Western Division at 2-13. Let's take a quick check over at the Eastern Division. Why? Because it matters, especially with the Pioneers getting off to a really good start right now. You know that you're going to potentially have to see the likely catalyst being the Amsterdam Mohawks in the championship round. It's no surprise that the Mohawks are in first place right now, 13-6. They've lost 1, 4-6 in their last 10. So if you're calling 4-6 quote-unquote really bad stretch for the Mohawks, then you know that they're in pretty good shape. The Saugerty Stallions trail them by a game and a half. They've won 2 in a row, 7-3 in their last 10 ball games with a 10-6 record. The Boonville Lumberjacks can stay consistent. They've won 1 in a row, but 6 in their last 10, 9-6 in their opening 15. Mohawk Valley rounds out that 14 playoff format. They're 10-7 right now, 2 games back of first place Amsterdam. Utica at 6-9, Glens Falls in 6th place at 7-11, and the Oneonta Outlaws 8.5 games back of first place Amsterdam. They've lost 2 in a row, 8 in their last 10. They sit at 3-13. So the Pioneers staying steady, staying consistent despite the adversity and all the different things that have faced them so far. And one of the reasons why is because they've gotten a lot of great offensive contribution. You've seen it in the field. You're going to hear that in a little bit, but so many guys who are able to interchange at different positions. In the outfield, you have about 3 or 4 different players that can rotate around. You have Dylan Fatovich, you have Ben Rody, you have TJ Grimesti, you have Cooper Smith. There's so many reliable guys, especially now with the departure of Kosei Ogura. We'll get to that a little bit in tonight's broadcast as well. That's a little bit tough for the Pioneers. Let's quickly go back to the last time the Pioneers took on the Auburn Doubledays. It was a week ago tonight at Dunn Field. The Pioneers dropped that ball game after winning 4 in a row, so that's been the Pioneers' only loss besides the Jamestown game. 2 losses in their last 9. Game that started off really strong for Elmira. They had a 7-run bottom of the first. Now, granted, law of averages are likely going to catch up with their averages against Hunter Lefkis tonight. Lefkis was a little bit wild in that first frame, had 2 walks, a hit batsman. Anthony Manganiello took advantage with a 3-run double. Later in the inning, Michael Palmer, a 3-run shot, but for the Pioneers, pitching was definitely not the name of the game that night. Elmira with a 7-run lead as they entered the third. Michael Cobb came into the ball game for a little bit, amongst some other relief pitchers too. Zach Nelson, not his favorite night on the mound that night either. Pioneers did lead 9-7 after 3 innings, courtesy of the 2-run double off the bat of TJ Grimesti down the left field line, but were unable to salvage victory. Auburn took a 10-9 lead in the 4th inning and never looked back, winning 15-11. Taking a look at some of the hottest Elmira Pioneers right now, we mentioned Anthony Manganiello's name. That's a guy who's been so consistent this year. A .321 batting average, the Northwood University product right now, coming in with a OPS really solid at .855. How about his buddy Brendan Hammer, who can man the third base position really well? He's known to field just like John Simmons. The hot corner, certainly a strength defensively of your Elmira Pioneers. Hammer batting .400, granted a small sample size across 6 ball games, a .900 OPS, .500 on base percentage so far through Brendan Hammer's opening 20 plate appearances or so. So that's all well and good, but the guy who's been really getting the job done for the Pioneers in this past week has been none other than Aiden Grabowski. Grabowski, a second-year returner for the Pioneers out of Tiffin University, can man the shortstop position, bat at the bottom of the lineup, middle of the order, and tonight he's leading off for the Pioneers. He has been so consistent for Elmira, and we're glad to have that because you had a couple players in the lineup throughout the course of the opening few games in which you were questioning, okay, well, where are they going to be inserted into the lineup? Now Andy Drum's having a lot more comfortability with what he has in the lineup, and ironically enough, the two players of the week, that being the pitcher of the week and the player of the week in the PGCBL West Division, reside both in tonight's ball game. Matt McGeorge, you saw him appear last Wednesday night against the Pioneers, right-hander out of Mercyhurst University, earned victories in both of his appearances for Auburn in this past week in a total of 8 1/3 scoreless innings pitched. He gave up just 3 hits, none of them for extra bases. He struck out 9 batters. The 1 hit he surrendered, 3 1/3 innings of relief, striking out 4 batters against the Pioneers. Then took the ball to start Game 2 of Sunday's doubleheader versus Niagara, fanned 5 across 5 innings, giving up only just 2 hits to earn the victory as the Doubledays defeated the Ironbacks 9-4 in Game 2 of that doubleheader. You want to talk, though, Aiden Grabowski on the Pioneers side. What a week for Aiden. Batted .550 across 7 games for Elmira, picked up 11 hits, including 4 doubles, while scoring 9 runs. He currently holds a 6-game hitting streak and has 4 multi-hit games during that time frame, including a 3-for-4 day in Elmira's 13-9 win over Newark on June 20th when he scored twice and drove in 2 runs. I got to also talk to Aiden on that pregame availability heading into Saturday's game, and what a time it was for him. He even tried to steal home off of Newark's left-hander John Lucas Sanchez, who had a bit of a slow rhythm and wind up to the plate. Grabowski feeling like he could take advantage, but we always say when it rains, it pours when we're going through a slump. Well, the same goes for when you're offensively performing really well. Grabowski just playing with all kinds of confidence tonight, as we alluded to previously. He'll be inserted into the leadoff role for the Pioneers. Let's take a look at the Pioneers starting lineup tonight, managed by Andrew Drum in second place in the PGCBL Western Division. Aiden Grabowski, the shortstop, will lead off. TJ Granesti doing the catching. Anthony Manganiello in left field to bat third. Doing the cleanup is John Simmons at third. Cooper Smith back in the lineup with a .294 batting average for your Pioneer out of Tufts University. He'll bat fifth. Michael Palmer, who hit the 3-run shot off of Hunter Leftis just a week ago at Dunfield, he'll bat sixth. Ty Martin of the DH, who's been steady Eddie at the plate all season for Elmira, he'll bat seventh. Carl Wagner, instead of doing the catching tonight, he'll be the EH and bat eighth. Brendan Hammer is at second base, he'll bat ninth. And Ben Rohde, rounding out the batting order, the Wyoming, New York native for the Pioneers, he'll bat 10th. So a lot going strong right now for the Pioneers. Vibes are good after 2 consecutive off days and a 7-2 week. This is the first of 6 games in the next 5 days, and to break it all down, I spoke with Elmira Pioneers assistant coach Eugene Barber.
I'm pleased to be joined on Pioneers pregame live by the assistant coach of your Pios and Eugene Barber, ahead of tonight's road matchup versus the Auburn Doubledays. And Coach, getting started 9 games in 6 days, and your team comes away with 7 wins, including a couple of walk-offs, strong pitching performances up and down the rotation. Now that you've had a couple days to breathe, what are your takeaways from that stretch?
The few days off were nice, just kind of, to let it all kind of sink in, going 7-2 in a week. I mean, we'll take that any day, but the off days definitely rewarded the guys that put out the effort to get those wins.
I want to throw it back to game 1 of that doubleheader in Jamestown on Sunday. Garrett Rochon lights out over 6 innings. What stood out to you about Garrett's stuff that made him so effective against a very potent Tarpskunks lineup?
I think he did a really good job just having consistent arm action, just really tunneling all of his pitches. Really benefited him. He had a lot of ugly swings out there and got a lot of soft contact without having to overexert himself going deep into that ball game.
Game 2 saw a tough luck loss for Bobby Boying despite a solid start. The team only scored 1 run, but there were signs of growth in battling with 2 strikes. Earlier this season, you mentioned that the hitter's approach was a bit of a concern in the early going, but are you starting to see more consistency now at the plate overall?
Yeah, definitely seen some more consistency. Just, the willing to fight, not to give away an at-bat when you could, easily just roll over as far as, just kind of taking a strikeout, throwing a weak, swing out there just to kind of get out of being in a tough spot. But the guys are doing a great job, just, being good at fighting up there at the plate, willing to compete when they even have 2 strikes. The next thing is that now we got to hit some of those pitches earlier in the count, when a pitcher makes a mistake.
You're facing an Auburn double.
being in a tough spot, but the guys are doing a great job, just, being good at fighting up there at the plate, willing to compete when they even have two strikes. The next thing is that now we got to hit some of those pitches earlier in the count, when a pitcher makes a mistake.
You're facing an Auburn Doubledays lineup that's had success against your staff, 32 runs across 3 ball games. What's the biggest adjustment or focus for your pitchers heading into tonight's matchup?
Big thing is that just want to get ahead early, and again, just having a good tunneling action on our pitch selection out there, having good sequences to make the hitters feel uncomfortable so that way they can't settle into their approach. Auburn's done a fantastic job against us, really just sitting in and getting ahead in their counts so that way their hitters can attack us.
What kind of intangible qualities does this Auburn team bring that's made them such a challenging opponent so far this year?
I wouldn't say anything in particular. I would just say that, they're pretty much willing to run guys a little bit longer. I mean, it's no disrespect to the staff over there. It's just, kind of seeing what happens in this league and around summer baseball when you run out of the lineup or you kind of let starters eat too many innings early. It can have a potential impact, down the playoff stretch in July with the guys not having the velo or legs not staying under the headers.
Shortstop Aiden Grabowski seems to be back in a big way after a small dip in production, taking home West Division Player of the Week. How important was his offensive resurgence during last week's stretch and helping steady the team?
I mean, Aiden's a great kid, really plays the game hard, and there's always a smile on his face. Just kind of the big thing was, you can kind of tell when a guy, is quote-unquote stat slumping, the stats may show a slump, but, the view and actual evaluation of the player shows something 100% different, and that's kind of where Aiden was. We got a few other guys in that boat that are going to be turning it around shortly.
A recent pair of Northwood Timberwolves have come into town in both Anthony Manganiello and Brendan Hammer, and both have made an instant impact. What have you noticed about their approaches that makes them tough outs in your lineup?
Just really guys that are strong character. Again, just like we go back to the start of the interview, is that guys willing to compete with 2 strikes, and when they get their pitch, they're going to swing and they're going to hit it.
On the defensive side, from you and Coach Drum and the entire rest of the coaching staff, is it a tough decision, especially when you have 2 lights-out defenders in Brendan Hammer and John Simmons at third base, and does it fluctuate depending on how good the offensive roster is that you're facing in that given night?
Again, just going back earlier in the interview, being able to cycle guys in and give guys rest, especially like last week we had 9 games. If you try to run that the rest of the season, guys are going to be exhausted. Guys get sick, guys get banged up. There's a lot of things that can happen, and just rolling a guy out there day in and day out. At this point in the season, we want to be able to exchange guys and not lose anything, really offensively or defensively out there. And luckily, we have a group that can do that.
Another demanding stretch begins tonight, 6 games in 5 days. After seeing the group handling last week's grind, do you feel this team's more prepared now to navigate the chaos of the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, again, just being able to, exchange guys, replace guys, move guys around, give guys breaks, keep some bats in the lineup, just the willingness to win the game, doing it for the whole team effort, whether if it's, like we've done in the past with some pinch hitting or some pinch running or some defensive, late game adjustments. We just kind of have a group that's, buying into that philosophy, next man up, and we love that mentality. And, it's, again, hey, we've been through 9, we can definitely do 6, and Farrell, if you remember at the start of the year, we sat down around June 9th, and, you kind of asked about the 3-game skid to start out the season, and now look at us now.
Yeah, a big difference from that time. And got one more question for you. Some bullpen guys mentioned how tricky the early season schedule was with uneven rest in between outings. Now that we are 17 games in with a much better record, has it become easier to establish a rhythm and maintain a more traditional bullpen rotation?
100%, and even on these few off days, we had guys throwing live APs on Monday just to get some extra work in, and just kind of work on some stuff at the done, and give our hitters a chance to get some at-bats during the off days, so it's good all around, and, just getting the guys into a rhythm has really benefited us in the past week or so.
Coach, thanks for your time and best of luck.
Thank you.
So there it is, Eugene Barber, the assistant coach of your Elmira Pioneers, joining me here on Pioneers Pregame Live. That'll do it for our extended pregame coverage tonight. Stick around here on Elmira Pioneers YouTube, as coming up just after 6:30, we'll have first pitch and all your live coverage tonight of the Elmira Pioneers in the Auburn Doubledays. For now, I'm Farrell Hudson saying so long. We'll see you in just a few short moments.